Welcome to Triangle BNI. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. Oak City Tech powers your goals with proven technologies for increasing traffic, leads, and sales. If you will go to oakcitytech.com, let them know what you want to work on and how they can help you. I know they can. They've helped me with this show and my website. So when you do talk with them, tell Drago we said hi. Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Manning, and welcome to Triangle BNI. Each week, we bring you a small business success story from Triangle BNI. If you are not familiar with BNI, it is Business Networking International, the world's largest networking organization. Our little slice of heaven here in the Triangle is the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill area. Each week, 33 chapters and more, almost 600 members get together. And the only thing we do is help each other grow our business. It's a little interesting these days because we're all meeting by Zoom. So by Zoom today, we bring you our guest, Hershal Pleasant with Remax Commercial. All right, Hershal, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Glad to have you. So Hershal's tagline is, if you need commercial, call Hershal, which is just classic. I don't know if when you were younger, if you're thinking, what profession can I go into for a killer tagline, or did it just work out?
Man, I was in it for about a year before someone goes, "Oh, Herschel, yeah, you do commercial." Right. Wait a second. That's way too good.
So Herschel and I are in the same chapter. We are in RD18. It's Connections in Motions. We meet every Thursday at noon. Normally, when we're meeting face to face, we meet at the Hibernian Pub on Falls. But right now, like all BNI chapters around the world, we're meeting by Zoom. So this is our second show by Zoom. Last week didn't go well. We took a power hit, and I had to get back on my phone on the second half of the show. So hopefully we'll be able to keep the power here at my house and we can have a whole hour to chat on the show here. But we're glad to have you. Herschel is with Remax Commercial. We've had residential realtors on the show before, and you pointed out before he came on the air that, yes, you're my first commercial broker we've had on. So I always like firsts on the show. What is the state of your world right now? Most of us have been home for, I think, almost a month, at least 3 weeks, but almost a month. So what's your normal week like now, and who's calling for what?
I am still getting calls. I have some owner-occupied needs. Like I have a company who needs some warehouse space, so I'm looking at that. Again, a couple people just trying to look for better deals. They're in some spaces, they see what's out there. Um, I have a gaming company that wants some space. So it varies. Um, I think that's what I love about commercial in some aspects. It's never the same thing. It's not like, oh, this is a 3 bedroom, that's a 4 bedroom, that's a this has 2 cars, that a 3 car garage. It's the uses can be so varied. Yeah. So
Are people asking for different things because of coronavirus right now?
I haven't really seen it yet. My investors are waiting to kind of see the market kind of reset itself to see if some of the investment purchases might actually go down in value a little bit, soften up the market.
One of the things I work on as a business coach with some of our clients is pivoting in our this current situation we're in. You may have to do more deliveries, you may have to add a particular service that will help your client. One of the things that I'm wondering in the next year, with almost everybody doing Zoom or go-to meetings, are companies going to figure out, hey, we have a certain number of employees that could work from home, and therefore they may not need as much commercial space in the future?
I've seen that at work. I've talked to one individual that was stepping away from their office lease and they didn't need it. And I think that that's going to move a lot of people from a brick and mortar building to home use. I know there are some people who have been anti work from home people. Then when this thing happened, they were like, actually, we're becoming much more efficient and much more effective. So we can actually push more people home, and that actually might increase some availability in the office market. I mean,
Okay.
Raleigh area has the second lowest vacancy rate in the country, so we have um, some buffer that we can actually use some extra room.
Oh, so unlike the housing market. where there's just no, the supply is, well, the demand far out distances the supply, right?
Well, so here, like this, the second lowest vacancy. So there's very few vacancies. There's very
Okay.
few inventory out there to find a rental for or to
So,
find a purchase.
okay.
Really,
So
it's
this,
really
okay. So I follow you now. So this may help you, may free up some stuff that people have been looking for, right?
correct. Yes,
Is this going to have any effect on building commercial space, do you think?
that's a good question. Um, well, I'm talking to the zoning. The zoning is actually reduced hours. The inspections are probably going to be delayed. So the building of new construction is probably going to be delayed a little bit more. Right now, it's been like an 18 to 24-month process. It's probably going to drag that out a little bit longer as well.
Okay. For the folks who may not be familiar with commercial work, I think most of us know how a residential realtor works. You generally buy or sell the house. And if you're renting, you deal with a property manager. I know there's a couple different things you do as a commercial broker. Tell us about a couple of those things.
So just like residential, we can buy and sell commercial space, and that is a big piece of it. But the rental market in commercial is so much more vast than in residential. You can There's much more rental options out there, like strip malls, strip centers are usually owned by one person, and they want to sell at least each individual unit out. Same with big, 4 or 5 story office buildings. One person's going to own it and lease it out. So there's a lot more leases going on than in the residential world.
When a client comes to you, is there a pattern that they're looking more for location or size?
Each company is different. Some companies, if it's a retail spot, they want foot traffic or certain visibility. So you're going to have to cater to their needs based on that. Some want geographical restrictions based on. I did an eyebrow threading salon. They wanted to stay out of these certain pockets, which would not do well with theirs. So we had to work the demographics to figure out this is a pocket you need. Here is the center that actually would in that pocket that works for your need. Other companies need access to infrastructures, like some need access to railroads, some need access to I-40. So depending on that, we just kind of pigeonhole them to what they need. So based on their needs, it varies drastically.
Now, tell me that first company, they did what to eyebrows?
Eyebrow threading. Okay, when they came to me, I had no idea. I had to actually go to my wife, like, "What is this? What are they doing?" So they get strings on opposite fingers and they pluck out the eyebrow, and it's called
Oh,
eyebrow threading. Yep. And so we got this one client is in Apex, right next to a salon down the street from a nail place with a tanning booth, all in the same center. So just ladies will just go there, get
oh my.
all their stuff done. So it was a perfect
Oh.
fit.
Are people more likely looking for rental space?
Yes, because there's much more rentals out there than purchase. There's Unlike residential, it's probably 2 or 3 times more rentals out there available than there are for purchase. And sometimes the purchase prices on some of these buildings are go, baseline 3 to 400,000 at the very, very low end to 2, 3, 10, $15 million.
Mm.
So
How have these new co-working spaces affected your world, or have they?
they haven't affected, they actually help. Because
Really?
yeah, there are companies that come to me and go, okay, our business is growing. We don't know where we're going to be at in the next year. So we can't sign a 3 to 5 year lease. It used to be, I can't really help them. Like you need to sign a long lease because that's the only way you can get into these spaces and just learn to live with that flexibility or learn to manage, get 2 sites or something like that. Now with the co-working space, okay, if you anticipate huge growth, go into these co-working spaces. They do actually pay commissions to commercial agents, and they give you the flexibility you need to ramp up the size. Then when you kind of hone your size, we can find something a little bit more manageable that's a little bit more price efficient, but yet you don't have the flexibility.
Okay, so they're kind of crawling before they walk.
Mhm.
Okay. Huh. Wouldn't have thought it that way. I'd have figured it was the other way, but that's why we ask questions on this stuff. Do people rent to buy in the commercial world? Can
Eh,
you do that?
You can. It's very rarely does it work. Um, there's a few that do it.
Is there a hot in a normal world, not right now, but in a normal world, is there a hot season for commercial?
No, it's year round, except for there's one downtime, and it's kind of built-in vacation for me. Um, Thanksgiving to Christmas.
Yeah.
No one wants to work on their business. No one wants to add more to their business plate. They want to spend time with home. So they do bare minimum on the office and they go home to their families. And so they're not calling me as much. And so it is kind of nice.
And as a business coach, we point that out to our clients all the time. Do not stop selling between Thanksgiving and Christmas because most everybody else has stopped doing it. You drive all over the triangle.
Mm.
All right. So you could actually do a map for the city and the county as much as commercial brokers like yourself with all the traveling you do, because you find the side roads, the warehouse space that nobody ever knew existed. And
Yes.
that's why it's so popular because they don't want to be seen, right? You know, all the hot retail intersections around the triangle too, don't you?
Yes, it's funny. It's funny when you see these places. People it's like no one knows this warehouse is right behind this road on
Mhm.
Glenwood.
Yeah.
It's like you're like I keep calling on that guy. It's like it's a hot spot, but there's all these little nooks and crannies that you'd be surprised what's in there.
Do you find when you give directions to people, you can give a landmark of a strip center or a big box store instead of roads?
Yeah, I do more like locations or things. I was actually telling my brother-in-law recently. He was like, "Oh, I was in this place." He was like, "Where's that at?" And he told me like, "Oh, that's where this is." Nope, they went out of business. Where that used to be and that used to be. I was like, so I'm like, I'm that old guy now that says, "Go by Farmer John's old house, go by the tree." I'm like, yeah, that's got my directions now.
Top the hill, you'll see a big tree, make a left. We all know, or the word in the commercial world is on restaurants, and just the churn on restaurants,
Mm.
that you could be at one and four people would remember it as four different restaurants just
Yeah.
because
Oh
that's a
yes,
hard one. That's a hard business to keep open, isn't it?
yes, that's a difficult one.
Is there another industry like that that's kind of a turnover?
I think the only thing that's comparable to the restaurants is executive offices.
Okay.
That's the um, that was a precursor to the co-working spaces. Just one room, rent a room.
Yeah.
They have high turnover. Restaurants are though is really tricky. I typically try to stay out of the restaurant world. I'm just bringing in a guy in my office probably 2 months ago that he has a lot of restaurants experience. And so I'm getting him to head up the restaurant side of Remax Performance's commercial division. And yeah, because it's tricky. I'm working on a restaurant space right now. But I had him get in there and say, "You vet the business. Because I don't want to get this guy in here and he won't be able to make it. You know, it's like you vet the go, you make sure he knows what he's doing, make sure he has the money, make sure he has to do all that stuff, make sure it's successful because I hate to bring someone in there and have them fold
Yeah.
after 2 months, 3 months.
Talking with residential realtors, sometimes they'll have that client that needs that feng shui for their house. So it has to face southeast. I need this sunlight. I need this just so they can set it up that way. Do you ever get that on the commercial side?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't.
Because
I
well,
have
you can't move a strip center. It faces south.
there's not a lot of like everybody thinks there's strip centers everywhere. There are
Yeah.
only just a few of them that have certain availabilities. I did have this lady who did Reiki.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so you're
Yep.
familiar. I'm like, explain me what you like. I want an urban garden. I want
Yep.
this. I'm like, okay, that's gonna be really hard. I get some of that, but not too often.
Yeah. And one of the better referral partners you have is usually residential realtors, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is.
Because
They're
they'll
great.
have an owner or a homeowner that may own a business, or they get the calls, "Hey, do you do both?" Which is a big no-no.
Well, a lot of times the residential agents have so much touch point with the
Mhm.
with community, with so many different people. So, and with all those different touch points, like, oh, you sell a house, you should sell the commercial space. Like, oh, they're the same thing. Yeah, there's no
And
difference.
we could spend a half hour talking about why it's so different, but it's way different. Usually, a residential realtor doesn't want to sell commercial, and I don't think you want to sell houses, do you?
I don't. I sold my house and bought my house, and I hated every second of it. I hated it. I was talking to my BIC every 2 seconds going,
Yeah,
"What in the world am I doing? I have
yeah.
no idea." But it's yeah, it's really funny.
And
Then I had my wife as my client, and
ooh,
yeah, you
yeah,
you can you imagine how that
yeah.
was like, "Well,
Oh
my
yeah.
house is worth this." There's no comps that would prove that. I'm like, so she was the toughest sale of the whole bunch.
All right, we are here with Herschel Pleasant with Remax Performance Commercial, Remax Commercial.
It's just Remax Performance, not I just do the commercial side of it.
Okay, gotcha. All right. Herschel and I are in the same BNI chapter. We meet Thursdays at noon. When we meet at the Hibernian Pub. We have a lot of fun. We have quite the number of characters in our chapter. So, I'd love for you to go visit any BNI chapter. I know it will help you grow your business, or if you know somebody that's starting out on a business, BNI will help them a bunch. That's all we do is help each other grow our businesses. So Herschel is in a pretty good position for COVID-19 because his wife is a doctor. And sometimes that's good, but sometimes it's not, though, right, Herschel?
Oh my goodness, it's she works in the ER,
Yeah.
so and that's been kind of fun. So I do have access to PPE, personal
Yes.
protective equipment.
Oh, yeah.
So when I went to Costco, she was like, "Wear your N95 mask." Yeah, I had all that all that fun stuff. But we're supposed to be on vacation right now. We had a trip planned to take our 3 kids to Europe, and it didn't go as planned. And so she had to cram all her shifts in the first part of April. So she had to work 7 out of 9 shifts, and quarantine herself the whole time too. So that was definitely the ugly side of it, where I'm trying to keep the kids at home and work, and keep everybody fed and homeschooling them too. So it was like a good fun juggling time.
That's the other thing, depending on where you are in life. Like Becky and I, our two boys are grown and gone, but our grandson, Oliver, who's 21 months, and we'll talk to him usually twice a week via Zoom or Duo. And his parents are obviously in the house with him in Charlotte because they're stay at home as well. I've learned from parents that they appreciate teachers and they learn how tough a single parent has it
Oh my goodness.
with watching one or two or three kids in a house because even with two parents and one kid, it can still be a handful. So how are you now? You guys have five in the house. So you and Michelle have three kids.
Correct.
How's everything going there?
Going well. Um, yeah, my kids are this summer, they're all turning 13, 11, and 7. So they're a little bit older. But this is a great time. We are continue doing homeschool, kind of get all the subjects that need to be done. My wife loves homeschooling the kids, which is great. She works on the weekends, and during the week she just homeschools them, loves being that stay-at-home mom. And right now we're just trying to keep them occupied. She's doing crafts with them and different activities. We bought them a lot of outdoor equipment, so like that inline skates and scooters and bikes. And we just set up yesterday our air hockey table that we got.
Ooh, okay.
So we have a ping pong table, air hockey table, and so we're making sure we get all the energies out.
They're going to learn real quick how competitive mom and dad can be, right?
Well, I can't. I have to tone down my competitiveness with my kids.
We're going to get to that in a minute. So, what's been the biggest adjustment for the kids through all this?
They just told me yesterday I had to take some. We cleaned out some stuff and put. I went to the dump, and they're like, "I'm going to the car." Going to like, and the kids turned around like, "We haven't been in the car in 3 weeks." It, so like they haven't. They just realized that they haven't been. So they're for them. Most of them, 2 of my kids, they haven't missed a beat. They actually love having mom and dad home more often.
Mm.
We play more games. My son came this morning like, "I wish you can play Clue with us," because they're playing Clue. So we have a bunch of board games, and so they really are enjoying this time. My oldest son, he misses his friends, so we're trying to get him into Skype. So he is having a hard time with that. like not going to Bible studies, not going to visit his friends and play around the neighborhood. And
Yeah,
so that's
Becky and I were taking a walk in the neighborhood. I think it was the last one night last week after dinner, and we're walking by a house, and there are these two girls, appeared to be 14, maybe 15. And the girl that lived in the house was sitting on her front porch. And the girl that was, I guess, her friend in the neighborhood brought a little tiny plastic chair, and she was sitting on the sidewalk about maybe 10 or 12 yards from the front porch, just chatting away like, yeah, this is what we do. So I was glad to see that, but I know that's a hassle.
it was like our next door neighbor. They had some friends over for dinner, and they all sat in the front yard,
Yep.
all 6 feet apart. And we've seen a couple people here walking, social distancing, walking the walk of
Yeah.
5, 6 feet apart from each other, just chatting like no tomorrow.
Screaming at each other because the cars go
Exactly.
by, can't hear each other, right? What's been the biggest adjustment for you and your business working out of the house?
Oh man, not meeting people, not
Mhm.
driving, just being stationary at a computer. It's been rough. Um, so not being face to face to talk to with people, read over documents together. It's usually easy to kind of do it face to face. To have questions, we can kind of point them out. That's one of the hardest thing. And I really didn't know until just now during this time. I really miss being in the car. In my car, there's no radio. There's no. I really don't spend too much time on the phone. It's just that's my personal time, and I'm
Yeah.
realizing I'm not getting that personal time.
Can you go show a property today if you need to?
I can't. I can't. There's different restrictions. Sometimes you only could be one person in the building per at a time, unless they're social distancing together. They can go into the building
Mm,
by themselves. But I can show that. I just have to be separate. They go in, then I can go in.
okay.
I tried to do one client this past Friday, didn't work out. But I was going to try to do video the
Hmm.
showing with forums. Like I take a
Yep.
video through it. So we're trying to navigate a lot of that stuff
Okay. All
right
right.
now.
Well, Hershal's wife, Michelle, is a doctor, as we talked about. One of my favorite questions to ask on the show is, how did you two meet? And you both tell the story the same way.
Oh, we kind of do tell the story the same way. So we met in college. It was really cute. We My wife was a neuroscience major. I was under Greek and mathematics. So we lived on opposite ends of campus, and we met at this useless class. It was introductory to computer science with a boring teacher who talked monotone slideshow at 8 o'clock in the morning. I got
Ooh.
so bored that I started flirting with a girl next to me. And so we were just there. She was there. I can hang out, start talking with her. She thought I was a dumb jock trying to hit
Mm.
on her because, she was like, he was just using me for grades and the studies for my notes. And yeah, that's how we met. And at Furman,
Mm.
this is when they were allowed to do it. They wanted to bring unity among the football players. So they said, what better way to do that for all the freshmen coming in? Have the same haircut.
Oh,
So they bring them
jeez.
all, sit them down, buzz all their heads. So it's easy to notice who the freshmen are. We all heads. Like, and actually, I fell in love with it. Now it's still
Yeah.
buzz my hair.
Wait, just the football players shave their head, not their
Just the,
freshman student body.
just the football
Okay.
players. So she knew exactly. Oh, this is a freshman football player. Like she, I know who this guy is. He's going to be a dumb jock trying to use me for my grades. And so that's how
Was
we.
that was that just under that coach, or do they still do it today?
Oh man, by our senior year, they said, "Oh, this is hazing. We
Yeah.
shouldn't do this anymore." Which is sad because the seniors put on the social gathering that led to the haircuts.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I didn't get to participate in that activity.
Well, as Herschel said, they met at Furman where you were a football player. Where else were you gonna go to school to play football?
Um, I was um, recruited by I was recruited by a bunch of teams. So my junior year, the I was recruited. I got phone calls and letters from Notre Dame, Clemson, Carolina, some of the big schools. Then they realized that the informational packet that was sent out listed me at 6'2", not 6'4". So that 2 inch made a huge difference. And all of a sudden all those big schools started to fall away. But my senior year, um, App State, Furman, uh, Air Force, Navy, um, were in that mix to recruiting me.
And I assume you were the only football player at Furman that majored in classical Greek.
Yes. But the Furman was, if people don't familiar with Furman, Furman is a very highly academic school.
Mhm.
I wasn't an academic person to begin with. I was your stereotypical dumb jock. I didn't really care about school. So I went there. I was one of the dumb football players. I had people. Um, One of
Herschel.
my teammates came in there, and he ended up getting 3 years, getting his degree in chemistry, getting his master's by the end of his 5th year, and got a PhD at Stanford. And now he's actually a professor, chemistry professor at NC State. So he scored like a 14 or 15 something on his SATs. All these other players were 1480, 1430. I'm like, I'm just walking out of this room. Like
Mhm.
I was literally one of the dumb jocks on the team. But with that though, we had to take a foreign language, and I fell in love with the Greek language. And so that's why I ended up getting an undergrad degree in Greek.
Why did you pick Greek?
So I have a little bit of dyslexia and dyscalculia. And there's a processing delay. When you hear information orally, you have to kind of refigure it and spit it back out to intelligible output. And so I tried Spanish, I tried French, I tried all these different languages. Oral languages, I'm horrible at. So, but when I was studying math, we were working with a bunch of Greek characters. I'm like, oh, this is easy. Greek characters. I know most of them right now from math. So I just started to read it, and I had to take a foreign language. And I realized that Greek, I get to process it whenever speed that I want to, because I visually look at it, get able to process it and spit it out. And so it really met my need for language, and it was actually pretty easy. Not easy, and it was difficult, but it was a lot easier than Spanish, any kind of oral language.
Well, but easier to you,
Correct. It was.
which makes all the difference. Now, I went to an SEC school, so you just used two big words on me a second ago. Dyslexia, I got. What was the second word?
Dyscalculia.
Never
This is
heard
where
that.
you switch numbers around.
Oh,
Yeah. So when I was a math teacher, I was like, okay, the number is 296, and I would read 629. Like that's what it would come out my head. Like I'd see the number, I would see the number correctly, but when I say it, it was just all garbled up. And so, and it was really funny when I had to teach people like, this is the math problem, here's the answers, and I would read, look at the, know it in my head the right, and it was come out the wrong number. And so it's just
wow.
switching the numbers around.
Well, how much of a struggle were both of those just getting through, getting through high school and middle school?
So my dyslexia was mild. My dyscalculia was a little bit more pronounced. I just had to make sure I looked at the numbers correctly. Because a lot of times, if I deal with the numbers in my head, I can spit it out in the head fine. When it's spoken, that's where it gives a lot of the issues. The dyslexia didn't really become a major problem until grad school. Um, when I was actually studying Latin literature, when all the papers and all the writings and all the tests that I had to take, there was a huge proponent of spelling things correctly with names and peoples and places and that sort of thing. And that's where the dyslexia kind of really got the biggest toll on it, getting those places and names correct.
Is that normal to show its face that late in life, dyslexia?
I had evidence of it throughout my life, and I just kind of learned to adapt. Then when there's enough pressure that it kind of surfaced enough that yes, this is the what's at issue at hand.
With the numbers then, if you were taking a math test on paper and said you just where you had to show your work 296 plus 471, you could do the math, you could read those numbers right, but with you it was what verbalizing those numbers or verbalizing what the question is?
Yeah, going from the head to the mouth or mouth to the hand, like sometimes those combinations, like if you told me a bunch of numbers to write them down, I might not write them down correctly
Okay.
because I hear them and I write something else down. Um, and so, yeah, it's just that, but if it's all in my head, it's fine staying in that realm without messing up. But when it just crosses over to a different realm, then that's when.
We are here with Herschel Pleasant with Remax Commercial. Herschel is in RD18 with me. Today's show is brought to you by Oak City Tech. If you will go online to oakcitytech.com, send them a note, tell them what you're looking for. I know they can help you. Tell Drago that we said hi. All right, let's go back to this dumb jock thing here, Herschel. All right. So I'm going to, now you are a star defensive lineman. My show, my story, I'm going to call it how I want, all right? I'm going to read you a couple things you did. I want to see if you remember doing these. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Against Elon one year, you returned a fumble for a recovered a fumble for a touchdown.
I do remember that.
What?
That was
Tell me about the play.
okay. So I it was a benign play. It was, I think, it was a dive play up the middle. Um, some linebacker came in there, hit him. The ball's out, and I come into the pile, and I realize the ball is out. Everybody is just sitting on the ground. So I see the ball. I leaned down, picked it up. No one knew that the ball was. It wasn't like it was a ball that was popping out anywhere. As I saw it, I just picked it up and just started running like crazy.
Did you sense that anybody was chasing you, or did you have a clear shot to the end zone?
Oh, once I started running, people started chasing me. So
Yeah.
I was going to like hold two hands and just run as fast as I could. And so I wasn't the most fleet of foot. So didn't want some of those wide receivers to come run me down.
Did you do the after you scored the touchdown? Did you naturally taunt the offensive guys, the running backs and the receivers, saying, "I could play your position"?
No, like you would definitely get a penalty off that. So, and penalties were something you avoid at all costs, especially the
Oh
similar
no, back on the sideline once you
on the
scored
sideline.
it, and yeah,
No, like
and
I
then give
was,
them some grief.
no, I didn't give him grief. Like, but I did get tackled by my teammates. That was a lot of fun in the end
Oh,
zone.
I bet. I bet.
So like,
I think it was a big play in the game too, wasn't it?
yeah, it was late. I think I had 2 fumble recoveries that game,
Yep.
if I remember correctly. And it was my senior year. I was really frustrated because we it was our opening game, and I was like, man, I was hoping for a great start to the year, and we just start off with a stinker. Our kicker, I remember that game specifically. We had a chance to win the game. He kicked it wide right, and we
Ooh.
missed. We ended up losing by 2 points. And so that was one of the heartbreaks.
Yeah,
Right,
if I remember, the first time we met was probably what 8 months ago, maybe 9 months ago. I keep forgetting this is April of 2020. Trying to think back, September. So whenever I right after we first met, we sat down and did a 1-to-1. I believe you were telling me a story about a young football player that joined the team, and you realized that he was better than you, even though he was younger, and you were the
oh yeah,
statesman on the team.
yeah.
Can you share that story again? Because I thought it was well done.
Well, so uh, my senior year, one of the highlights was that we went up here to UNC and beat them in the stadium. And what I like to tell people about that is that, you know, I had to play it. I was a strong side, so I had to play up the tight end, Algie Crumpler at the time.
Hmm.
Who, if anybody remembers from UNC, was a beast of a guy. And there's different ways you can handle. Like I was 245 playing weight. Algie was probably, they listed him at 265, but he was 285, all of 285. Um, and there's different ways to handle. Like the freshman that was there, he was 215, 220, smaller. I was bigger and stronger, but he was such a better player than I was. Because he could read the defense, read the offense, know what the offense is trying to do to you, and he would counter it. He knew if there's trips this way, this was going to come, and if this lined up, they're going to do this. And so he was so much better of a football player than I was. But luckily, I was a little bit bigger and stronger than he was. So most times he was a better player. Playing with Algie, though, I was end up doing a little bit better because at 285, at 245, I was able to hand myself a little bit better. I only had like 1 tackle, 1 assist that game, but so he could read the defense. But unfortunately for him, on that day at 285, he didn't have to stand a chance. So one of those times where he was up in there. And when we do a scout film, it's 12 and a half yards on either side of the line of scrimmage. And in one of the plays, Algie grabbed him, ran him out of the screen of the view, which was 12 past 12 and a half yards. And we gave him grief at film studies, like, Eddie, where'd you go? You can see Eddie just kind of popping back. This unique gait, and he just walking back to the line of scrimmage. Luckily, we had someone come in there tackle the running back in the back of the field, so we didn't actually get to see where he ended up at.
And my takeaway from that story was the wonderful things you said about that young player, and you actually learned something from him, even though you were the senior.
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember we were doing some practice, and he's like, "Oh, watch this play." I'm like, and it happened. I'm like, "How did you do that?" And he was like, "Well, you got to know what they're doing to you." I'm like, I looked at him, I was like, "I wish I had your football acumen." It's like, I wish I studied it. Like, and he had a better career than I did overall, and it just gives like preparation, skill, really being creating the craft of what you do matters a lot. And that's why you see the people in the NFL now, like, are not just only the people who are the fastest, the strongest, but the people who have the acumen, like, Tom Brady. Like, he's not the fastest, he's not the strongest, but that was his craft. He owned it. He wheeled himself, and so he mastered the game, and that's why he's so much better than everybody, all the quarterbacks in the league.
I was looking at your 1999 stats, which I believe was your senior year,
No,
correct?
yes, it was.
Okay. Now, you did not pile up a bunch of gaudy, cheap stats, but what you did have were key stats. And this is what I like about it. Did you know? I mean, you only had 19 tackles that year. Did you know five of them were for losses?
I didn't.
Okay. Did you know you had three fumble recoveries that year?
I did. I did remember that one.
I can you told us one on the touchdown,
Mhm.
right? What do you remember the other two?
The other one should have been Eline as well,
Mhm.
but the last one was a playoff game against UMass. Um, so with the stats lines do you see the games played?
I did, yes. Yep.
I was injured so much of that year. I only played half the year because of injuries. Um, so it's kind of giving it's like after the I was a defensive player of the I was actually the player of the game for the Elon game,
Mhm.
which is the very first. I high ankle sprained that Monday afterwards doing conditioning. I couldn't turn. I did my left leg. I couldn't turn left the whole year. So when I was doing for the rest of the year, I had to, if I was going on the right side, needed to go sack the quarterback, I would go and do a spin move under, turn right, 360 to kind of come in. Couldn't turn left for the rest of the year. Then I had stingers. I had over 100 stingers in my college career, which kept me out of the games. I had to do some MRIs. Then just litany of injuries after that, like dislocated two fingers on my one of my hands, which took me out of one of the games because we had a control end. There's a penetrating end and control end. There's two different ways to play defensive end, and we needed to control the end, control the line scrimmage. So we needed our hands to kind of control. Um, if you penetrate, you didn't care if you have to club, whatever, you just go in. So that took me out. Going into the last game, I had hip flexor, turf toe, and pulled hamstring on the same leg. And that was a UMass game. And so I was struggling with the UMass game. The last one, they were driving in for a score, and that UMass game, the running back fumbled the ball, and I dove on the fumble in the end zone and to stop them from scoring, which made it a closer game.
And did you know you had 2 sacks that year?
I don't remember them.
Okay. I was gonna ask you who you sacked, but so I think you may have answered one of my questions. Is Algie Crumpler the best player you played against, regardless of position, or who would that best player have been that you
Best
guys, I guess, as Furman as a team played against?
Okay, so the best player that I played head up, Algie Crumpler was the best. The best player that we played against was Randy Moss.
Oh, wow.
Um, that was my freshman year. Um, he was at Marshall. His is
Mhm.
his first year at Marshall. Again, this is right before Marshall went from 1AA to 1A. And if you ever watched his 30 for 30, he got arrested his freshman year for battery, and the coach bailed him out midweek. And that was the week that we played him. So he got arrested that Wednesday, and we saw it was Saturday, and I saw him. I mean, that was circulating the news of him being arrested. And I saw him like, this guy is a toothpick. One hit, and we're going to crush him. And the play that really stood out, I was on the sideline and they did a flare route with Randy Moss. So he came up, he was running towards me. Then when he cut up the sideline and I saw the speed, I have never seen speed like that before. He ended up running 63 yards for a touchdown. I was like, holy cow, we're not going to catch this dude. We're not going to come close to him.
He was just one of those players that you just different. You just know when you see 21 other people on the field with him that he's just different.
Yeah, like even that, I've never seen a talent like that before or since. Just that much speed and his long legs. People, you couldn't get the right pursuit angle because you couldn't see how fast he was running. Like he was so much faster. So people like try to catch him. You're like, oh no, I'm going to miss him. All he's blown past in the end zone. And they've seen people faster, but they can adjust to it because the legs are moving. You can, okay, you can kind of adjust to it.
Yeah, that size and that speed is despite all the stuff off the field, I don't think he got enough credit on the field because he was a special player. So, who won that game?
We were winning at halftime, 17-14. Then it turned ugly. We ended up losing 34-17. Then we played them again later that year, and they just realized with Randy Moss and us, just throw it as high and far as you went, and he would run it up. And so they beat us into the playoffs 70-0.
Ooh. You
It was,
probably, other than maybe one of your linemen, did you have anybody on defense that was 6'5"?
I know. Our DBs were 6 foot at best.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Now, while I like you, Herschel, here's my one beef with you. You got your master's at Georgia in classical languages, not a problem. My beef with you is as a Tennessee grad, you got that dang Georgia logo on your LinkedIn page. Why do
Oh,
you not have a Furman logo on there?
I don't know.
I'm
I,
going to
di-
call
actually,
LinkedIn.
I didn't as
Yeah.
okay. I got to figure out how to add logos. I didn't know I added a
Yeah.
logo.
I'm going to call LinkedIn so I can get that removed because that Georgia one just not pretty, just not pretty. So, the other thing I love doing is talking about famous alums at your school.
Okay.
All right. So, if people aren't familiar with Furman, it is a small private school in South Carolina. You would not think that they would have a lot of distinguished alums. I'm hoping after this show you'll move up on that list. But here's a couple. I don't know if you're at school with any of them, but it's a pretty dang good list. Now, you have my favorite female athlete of all time, Dottie Pepper, the
Mm,
golfer. Feisty, spunky, could win. Favorite female player of all time. Because I watched her. She and I are roughly the same age. So I watched her grow
okay.
up playing. Yeah.
We had a lot of good golfers. Our golf
Well,
program was
I
stellar.
was I was just going to say Beth Daniel, another Hall of Famer, was there. Amy Grant, the singer, went to Furman. Did you know that?
Yes. One of my D-line coach dated her when he was at Furman. She didn't graduate from Furman, but she went there. Yeah.
The ex-Bengals, Cincinnati Bengals head coach, Sam Weish,
Mhm.
is a Furman grad. I don't know if he coached there, though.
I believe he did for a little bit. I'm not sure, but he's always
He-
been a fixture at Furman.
oh,
And
good. Okay. And for the soccer fans out there, one of the better players for the U.S. national team on the men's side, Clint Dempsey, is a Furman grad. If you are a Saturday Night Live fan back in the day, Victoria Jackson, who was the blonde on Saturday Night Live back in the day. She was on there, I believe, with Chris Rock and that crowd, but
okay.
she's a Furman alum. Herman Lay, the Lay part of Frito Lay, is a
Oh,
Furman
really?
alum. So I don't know if they gave a lot of
What?
money or not, but he's alum. Here's my favorite. Alexander Stubb, the former prime minister of Finland.
Yes.
Went to Furman. Were you in school with him by chance?
No. No.
I love that.
Did you what about the musician? Do you have the musician on there?
Not on my list. No, who is it?
Oh. A teammate of mine. Um, he was a freshman my senior year. He's the lead singer to Need to Breathe, which is a rock band. Um, not familiar with them? Okay.
I don't
Well,
think I'm their demographics. No, I'll just say it that way.
they're kind of a southern rock band.
Okay.
They were the opening act probably 3 years ago, 4 years ago that toured here. They were the opening act for oh, what's her name? Um, Tyler. What's that? Uh,
Bonnie, well,
no, so whatever that pop sing like anyways, like they were a big rock band. They're pretty popular. They actually wrote a theme song to uh The Shack, the movie The Shack. They
oh,
one
really?
of the
Okay.
songs are there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. Yep.
so
So
in my
some
era,
distinguished.
they were the most famous people at Furman from my era.
So for a small private school like that, some distinguished alum. Well done. Now I'm going to go back. So when the show's over, people are going to realize you weren't the dumb jock that you made yourself out to be. Okay, we're just going to stop that right there. You taught in high school. You taught Latin, Greek, and math. I don't think many football players do that, Herschel. So where all of a sudden did you get smart, and how quick did you get smart?
Uh, Math was easy for me. I just grew up very analytical and math minded. So that part was easy. And so I was never a good math student in college because the theoretical math I was horrible at. We had to take a foreign language, so that's why I ended up Greek. And just that's the love of Greek was the catalyst for academia for me. That's where I kind of said, okay, let me put aside my dumb jock ways and really study. So I really fell in love with the language. I fell in love with the culture, and that's where I got, studied Latin at UGA. That's where the love came from. Is like, hey, I can actually do both. I can be in academia you know, um, and be an athlete as well.
I guess one of the questions I have is what kind of kids are taking Greek in high school?
People who are they have a good, strong classical background of Latin, then they will build a Greek program out of it. That's why I wanted to teach Greek. I had to go back and get Latin in order to be able to teach Greek. So that's why got the degree. Um, it is students that want to go into humanities. It's kind of gives you an insight into philosophy, to history, to science. A lot of the classical world is a great catalyst for that and kind of a gateway.
Are you fluent in either one of those subjects today?
I read Greek probably 5 or 6 days a week. I'll still read Greek. The New Testament's in Greek, so I'll bust out the New Testament and read it. The Latin I'm teaching my kids. My Latin skills have definitely diminished over the years because I don't really read as much Latin as I used to. Um, I love to kind of pick up some Horace. Still, I'll read the Vulgate some. Um, Catullus is always fun to read.
All
So
right.
I just pick up the fun ones that I really want to read, and I'll read some of that.
Was there ever a cool moment where you pulled out your knowledge of Latin or Greek to win a bet or impress somebody?
That's a great question. Um, I don't try to do it to impress, but a lot of times though, when I with people in a Bible study or something like that, they're arguing over the meaning of a word. And at that point, I'm like, okay, let's don't argue over the English meaning of the word. Let's
Yeah.
go. Actually, this is what the Greek means, and it's very precise and has a very unique concept. And so I bring that up often.
Okay. And I know the one thing I did know from you after our first one to one was how important your faith was to you and your relationship with the church you're in now. How far back does that go and how that get started?
Um, I grew up in a house that didn't go to church. So faith was never something that was pressed upon me. Um, if you look at me now, like I do have a certain size of girth, and a lot of that stemmed from a dysfunctional background that I came from, where I grew up, I went to 9 different schools by ninth grade, and so I bounced around all over the place. And that turmoil, that lack of consistency, left me searching for answers and searching for meaning. And so it was that point where in that searching, um, I had to turn to something to kind of quell all that emotions that I didn't know how to handle, all those doubts and um, insecurities. And so I found out before I found faith, I found weightlifting as the means to kind of balance. If I fatigued myself out, I didn't have to worry about it. If I'm just completely exhausted, I didn't have the mental energy to have to deal with the questions that I was bouncing around with. Then, as I got older, then that's where I learned went to a church, kind of found faith and found that relationship that kind of answered those questions. The meaning of life, why am I here? The meaning to the pain that I experienced growing up. It kind of answered those. It kind of gave me a way to say, those pains there wasn't meant to tear me down. It was meant to give you strength in me and to grow from it. So I learned how to work through a lot of those pains.
How does that factor into your being a dad?
Oh, a lot. Because my oldest son is the same age I was when I was contemplating suicide. And that was the catalyst for a lot of this change is that I was going down that route and saying, I didn't feel noticed, I didn't feel seen, I didn't feel valued. And that led me to that point. And I realize now my son's at the same age I was, that all like this could have been a turning point. Um, And so I look at that now and say, the things I'm wrestling with, my kids are wrestling through the same thing. Um, and so it really kind of puts it in perspective with me saying, okay, there's a lot going on in their head, a lot going on in their emotions that maybe I cannot see from the outside. So to learn to listen, learn to value them, and learn to say when they have those emotions or have those thoughts or feelings, to pull it out. So there's stuff there that they're thinking. For me, it was a lie that I wasn't valued, and it was a lie that I didn't matter. It's to try to see, okay, what lies are they hearing? What lies are they telling themselves that I need to step into place and tell them the truth? Yeah.
I've always been in search of the how and the why. A lot of the what's are kind of simple and you can figure those out, but I always like to know the how and the why. And growing up, especially on the male side, and I know it's more prevalent today on the female side in the business world or just any non-sports success story you hear, there's usually a tie to sports and athletics from a team standpoint or growing up. What did football do for you to where you are today?
It's football means a lot to me. Not because, well, growing up, it was my outlet. I try to seek my identity in football a little bit, and I think when we met, I shared you when God ripped that identity of football player from me, which was painful, but growth, huge growth period. But football in the game of life taught me a lot in that as a defensive end, there are times where my job was to hit the tight end as hard as I can. Then if I seen the guard pulling at me, I have to hit him to blow it up so that the running back will bounce and the linebacker, which if I knock the tight end off his game, will free up the linebacker to tackle the running back. So I'm giving up my body, sacrificing it for the common good. And so in life, there's sometimes where you do something, you're not going to be the praised, you're not going to be get all the glory, but you need to do certain things for it to function well. In the family, life, work, I got to do some ugly lifting, the ugly jobs to do something to make other people prosper, to make my house prosper. And so it tells me, hey, it's not going to be pretty. You're not going to get the glory. You're not going to get the praise, but it needs to be done.
And I was a fan of teamwork as well. I grew up playing junior tennis and I prefer doubles over singles just because of that teamwork. And a lot of the times these leaders, when they tell those stories about playing sports, it was being part of a team. And like you said, learning your role, but helping your teammates as well.
Yeah, like I remember nothing says teamwork as much as playing against a triple option team. I don't know if you ever do it. Like
Oh,
You have
well, no, my son went to Georgia Southern, so we got a
oh,
full dose watching. So I love the triple option under center when you can't see the quarterback because he's like 5'5". This shotgun triple option, I'm not a fan of, but go ahead with your story.
so like Georgia
Yeah,
Southern, like,
yeah,
I played under against Georgia Southern, and
yeah.
it was you make sure you hit the right person. Like you do your job. Don't care what the ball looks like. You don't care what, like, if you don't, there could be a 40, 50-yard touchdown.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep. What was your role in that against that defense? What were you supposed to be doing?
the quarterback.
Okay.
When I was play the tight end, it's when I'm on the strong side, it's the quarterback every time. If I'm on the weak side on the tackle, is I have to take the dive guy. Um, but yeah, I remember one time in high school, uh, wow, man, we are playing Greenwood in South Carolina, and I was playing strong side, so I was getting the quarterback, and they were just keep handing it to the dive guy, keep handing it to the dive guy. I'm like, this is driving me crazy. So we're getting near the end zone. I'm like, forget this, I'm going down. So I saw the quarterback, I just dove down, smacked the fullback, and the guy goes, aha! He starts laughing at me. I'm like, what? Looked up, and the quarterback's in the end zone.
And that's all it takes is once, isn't it?
uh, that hurt. That hurt.
I don't know why, like Tennessee and Alabama and Texas and all those schools schedule a triple option team because they never play the triple option, and it can just make you look stupid.
Well, I think a lot of times they play them to kind of get that experience. Okay, man, a lot of times you guys have superior athletes now, and you can compensate it, but you will mess up one time or two. Um,
The
for
two things that you go ahead.
So some teams, like, you can make up for a huge deficit gap in athleticism, and talent by running the triple option. That's why there's a lot of triple option teams in the lower end. It doesn't sell a lot of tickets. It doesn't get a lot of fanfare. So that's why you don't see a lot of big programs do it. But you could win a lot of games that way.
Oh yeah, yeah. I remember Georgia Southern winning at Florida, and I remember Southern running for 271 yards against Alabama. I think it was. So I would, not, if I'm a defender, I want no part of a triple option. But so we are here. It is April 20th. You had a birthday on March 31st. How did you celebrate under COVID-19?
A couple of days before, I made sure I went to Costco and got a big, nice little prime rib roast, and just hung out with family. And I think I had a cake. Yeah,
Mm.
it was nice, low key. Didn't
So
go any.
everybody having birthdays probably from what March 15th to easily May 1, maybe May 15th will always have a story to tell, and you will be one of them, won't you?
Yeah,
Anyway, any idea what the next 90 days or 120 days is going to be like for you in the commercial world?
man, it's a huge unknown.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was going to last this long. Um, so I don't know what's going to happen. We still see a little traction. I think people are going to get restless and start moving out more, doing more activities. I don't know if they can be cooped up for much more than a month. But we'll see how it goes. I'm really interested to see how the showings are going to go because people are slowing down, trying to step back. But now this past weekend got a lot more activity, and people wanting to see space, wanting to kind of move forward. So I think people are going to be much more active. This is the feeling I get. And so, how to do the showings, how to have tenants view space under that circumstance. I've actually sent out a post to a lot of commercial guys and, hey, how are you handling this? What are some best practices? Because I'll let them know how you think. And so I got some response from that, which wasn't bad. And trying to get people are putting up plexiglasses and different sanitizing things before and after only one person. So there's some good ideas out there. So hopefully we'll do a little more of those activities and get this market running again.
Yeah, I think in the next 2 weeks, stuff's going to happen. It may be organized, it may not be, but something's going to happen one way or the other. The economy can't take much more of this, but I know we all want to stay healthy. So I'm hoping there's that happy medium somewhere that everybody finds. And I'm sure you guys will kind of see it when you see it, right?
Well, I'm hoping that with these, this is from my wife's perspective. She kind of fills me in a lot of the stuff. Whether there's the quick essay or something you can test in 15 minutes, whether positive or negative, like we can get people who are testing positive, have them re-engage into the workforce, and just have this test regularly to make sure, hey, keep those who are have been through it already, they can get back to work, get segments, people who are sensitive or need to stay home, have them stay home and bring everybody else back out to work, might be a good solution.
Yeah, I hope. I know everybody wants to think this through properly, and I know there's a number of factors involved in this, but I hope everybody does the right thing for the right reason. But I know the economy is going to need to get a little kick here shortly. So hopefully everything will work out, and hopefully everybody watching the show and listening is feeling good, and we're all doing what we're supposed to be doing. So we'll probably have a couple more Zoom shows like this. But Herschel, glad to have you on today. Appreciate the stories. I can talk for those of us who wanted to play college sports. I have a place in my heart for everybody that got to play that. I know you have some good memories of playing at Furman.
Yes. Thank you for
Uh,
having me. I appreciate it.
how are you walking these days with all those football injuries?
Um, Not great. So, I'm trying to postpone my knee surgery as long as I can. Um, the friend that I told you about, that freshman football player, he's trying to put off his hip replacement as much
Oh,
as
geez.
possible, you know. And so, yeah, it takes a toll. Football takes a toll on your body. And we just played collegiate level. I can't imagine what the
Yeah.
pros go through.
Can you beat your 7-year-old in a foot race?
I don't run anymore. Um, so the last time I did, man, this was about a year ago. I sprinted with my son and I beat him, but my knee was given out by that. It was like, it was the last sprint. I was going by the end. I hobbled for the next 2 days. And so it was kind of like, I paid for it.
Well, here's my advice to you. The next time one of your kids challenge you, go, I could run, but I'm not. I would win, but I just don't want to do that. So
I
I'm
like,
just going to sit on the sideline. So just always take the high
I like,
road.
I like,
So
I could, but
anyway, yep. Yeah, there you go. Anyways, Herschel, good luck with everything. Glad we could have you on the show. And we'll see everybody next week on Triangle BNI.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.